Well, hi there. This is Jay Boyer, and I want to welcome you to my children's book formula program. And also to congratulate you because you now have all of the tools and the training and the resources that you're ever going to need in order to write and publish and profit as a children's book author on Amazon. I also wanted to introduce my right-hand man. If you hear somebody else in these training videos, it's not me. It's going to be my in-house Amazon publishing expert, Blaine Moore. Blaine has been with me for over 7 years. He manages all of my books that I publish to Amazon. He sets up all my advertising campaigns for them. He's also a coach in my Apex Authors Inner Circle program. And suffice it to say that he is super knowledgeable in all things Amazon publishing and all things children's book publishing specifically. You're also going to see him over in the Facebook group. And if you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, head over to the bonus tab inside this members area and you can click on a link and request to be added there. I also wanted to give you some tips or pointers on how to best consume this training in order to generate best results. In any case, I want to let you know what my methodology is when I log into a brand new training program like this. And yes, I do. I buy as many training programs as I possibly can, trying to stay on top of the game, trying to stay sharp. And here's what I do, and maybe this is something that you're going to find useful as well. If not, then just take it with whatever grain of salt that you like. And so here's one way to approach the consumption and implementation of the training that you're going to find inside of this members area. Number one, you're in the right place. You're in the core training tab. Go through all of the video trainings in each one of the 5 modules that I have created for you outside of this introductory module that you're going to find in that core training tab, namely research, writing and illustrations, publishing, promoting, and scaling your books. Those are the 5 steps that we're going to be covering in this core training module, and I recommend that you go through and sort of binge watch them all, almost like you were watching your new favorite Netflix show. Watch all of the trainings in each one of those modules, starting from the top, in a single sitting, and then go back to the first video in that particular module and implement the action steps described in each video. And then when you're done with all the individual videos and implementation of the training in each one of those videos in that module, it's time to move on to the next training module. Again, watch them all for the overview and then go back, starting from the beginning, watch each individual video again and implement the training that I describe in that video. And then move on to the next module. And speaking of moving on, I'm done here. I'll see you in the next video in this introductory module. Hey there, it's Jay Boyer. Welcome back to this short introductory module. And in this video, I want to address perhaps the unspoken question, why Amazon? Why are we even talking about Amazon? Aren't there other options available to us as self-published authors? Why not go directly to a publishing company or a vanity press? Well, I actually think that's a really good question, and I wanted to dedicate an entire video to this specific question. Why do I love self-publishing all of my children's books to Amazon? Well, let me count the ways. Whether you're brand new to this idea of children's book publishing, maybe you've already gotten a couple books under your belt published in different platforms. Perhaps you're not experienced with Amazon, maybe even a little afraid or intimidated or thinking, holy cow, it is too competitive there. Well, I'm about to show you why Amazon should be your first and maybe even your first and only stop as a children's book publisher, especially if you're brand new to this, and how Amazon is going to give you every advantage in the world for you to succeed. Starting with this idea of trust. Amazon is not only the #1 marketplace in the world for books, they're also the most trusted brand in the world. And so you're going to be able to actually piggyback on this trust that they have built up over the past 20 plus years as the premier online marketplace in the world for book publishers and book buyers. And speaking of trust, this is how much people actually trust Amazon. By some estimates, Amazon currently has over 500 million credit cards of their users on file. Can you think of any other website out there that can even compare with that number? With the added advantage that consumers can actually head over to Amazon and cruise on over to your book listing page and purchase it with a single click. Why? because they already have the credit card on file. They don't have to go through the usual sales order form process. Reason number 2 why I love Amazon and why you should be excited about publishing your books on Amazon. It's the second biggest search engine online, period, next only to Google. And guess what? Unlike Google, these people are all buyers. People go to Amazon for one single reason: to purchase stuff. And with almost 7 million unique visitors every single day visiting just the Amazon.com US marketplace, this means that whatever type of children's book that you would like to publish, chances are there's somebody searching for it and wanting to buy that book right now from you. Reason number 3, Kindle is literally everywhere, and with the Kindle app that people can download to pretty much any electronic device out there, people can buy and consume Kindle ebooks on every kind of computer or mobile device, like Paperwhite readers, Kindle Fire readers, all smartphones under the sun, period, iPads, Android tablets, phablets, that's sort of the midway between your iPhone and your tablet, smartwatches, laptops, desktops, everywhere right now, people can download a Kindle app, buy your book, and read it on the same darn device. Because again, Amazon wants to make it as simple as possible for people to make a buying decision about your children's book. Another amazing reason why you should be thrilled to be publishing to Amazon is their royalty structure. Did you know that Amazon will actually pay you between 35% and 70% of every Kindle ebook sale? That's incredible. And if you compare that with the typical royalties from a traditional publisher, I can tell you this firsthand because I publish my kids' books not just to Amazon, but through a traditional publisher based in New York. The royalties for those book sales are only between 8 and 15%, 15 being on the very, very high end for authors like Stephen King. Needless to say, the difference between 70% royalties and 8% royalties is huge. And another fun fact, as a result of making this incredibly attractive to self-published authors like you and me, Amazon pays out more royalties than any other bookseller on the planet. And they do it every 30 days and they deposit it directly into your bank account. Another reason why Amazon is the bomb: convenience. Yes, Amazon is going to take care of almost everything for you. They're going to remove every obstruction and hurdle that you might possibly run into if you're trying to sell your book on a blog or on a different platform, etc., because you're not going to need a website. You're not going to need a PayPal account. They're going to host your book sales page for you. They're going to promote your book. I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later. They're going to be processing all of your transactions, delivering your book to the end user's doorstep in the case of a print book, or sending it directly to their ebook reader that they purchased it on. They take care of all customer service, and they're going to be processing any refunds, and if there are any, they'll just deduct it from your balance at the end of the month when they calculate your royalties. If you've ever sold anything online before, you know it doesn't get any easier than this. Research. And this is something that the casual user, the casual Amazon buyer never even thinks about, but something that you will know inside and out by the time you get through this program. Amazon's going to give you all of the real-time market research data that you're ever going to need right on the website itself. And here's what I mean by that. All of the categories, keywords, trends, bestseller rankings, bad reviews. Yes, we'll talk about how important it is to investigate your competitors' bad reviews later on in this training. It's all hiding in plain sight and waiting for you to take this information and reverse engineer your own best-selling kids book. Book promotion. Yes, Amazon is going to promote and sell your books in a dozen different ways under the sun. They're going to do it 24/7, and they're likely do it without you even knowing it. And it's all accomplished with features on Amazon like countdown deals, the look inside feature for books, the bestsellers lists, new releases, keyword searches, retargeting ads. Yes, did you know that Amazon will actually promote your book for free with retargeting ads on Facebook and other websites, etc.? Programs like KDP Select and Amazon Prime, shopping cart reminders, page one Google rankings, email marketing campaigns, and the list goes on and on and on. Print books. Yes, we're not just talking about Kindle ebooks here, and in fact the print versions of my children's books outsell my Kindle ebook versions by about 400 or 500%. Now, that certainly can't be said for all niches and genres that you're going to be selling inside the Amazon Books marketplace, but it certainly is for children's books. And it's all accomplished via print on demand technology, which is to say that Amazon's MO is not to print up thousands of copies of your book and store them in a warehouse until someone actually orders it. They don't have the storage capacity for that stuff. Instead, your book is printed up immediately as soon as someone purchases it, bundled up and shipped out to the consumer. And it's this type of technology that has completely leveled the playing field for self-published authors and allowed regular folks like you and me to jump in and become successful and mildly rich as kids book authors inside of the Amazon marketplace. And perhaps best of all, as I conclude my love letter to the Amazon Books marketplace, all this, everything I just mentioned, is completely free. They're not going to charge you a single dime for any of this stuff. It's all part of the package, and they are all examples of Amazon wanting to give you every advantage in the world to succeed with publishing your children's books inside the Kindle and print books marketplace. Okay, there you go. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you're excited about publishing on Amazon if you weren't before, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey there, it's Jay. I'm back, and welcome to the final introductory video in this short module. And I want to just sort of talk a little bit about my particular approach to children's book publishing. If you've ever purchased any sort of self-publishing course before, Amazon Kindle publishing course before, you'll probably notice that this one is a little bit different. And so I wanted to make this short video and let you know where I'm coming from, because I think that it will be instructive to you as you proceed through this course. First of all, I approach my kids' book publishing as a business, informed by my 10 years in the online marketing and digital publishing space. And I recommend that you sort of think of this and approach this as a business yourself. In fact, each one of the books that I publish, and I think I currently have about 16 children's books published to Amazon, each one of those little babies, it's how I think of them after I finally birthed them into the Amazon marketplace. I think of each one of those books as a little mini business, each one creating multiple streams of passive income for me. Another reason why perhaps this course is different than other self-publishing courses that you may have taken is that everything I do is informed by my online marketing expertise. I've generated 8 figures in sales since I got started in 2009 with all things online marketing and digital publishing. And that's why in the later modules, when we start talking about how to scale up your business, I think you're going to find it useful when we discuss things like paid advertising for your books, or how to create an email list of those very same book buyers that we're going to be purchasing your kids' books. Another way that I approach my children's book publishing is, hey, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's people that have gone before me that are better than me, that are smarter than me, that have already made the mistakes, right? That have already done the hard work. And I feel to a certain extent that it's a waste of my time, and by your time as well, to start from ground zero and feel like you have to figure all this stuff out yourself, because you don't. As you're about to see in the next module, we're going to be talking about book research. What we're going to be doing here is simply identifying the books that are already selling well inside the Amazon marketplace and modeling certain aspects of them. Maybe it's the character that they put on the cover of their books. Maybe it's how they title their books. Maybe it's the particular niche or genre or writing style or the illustrations that are on the interior of the book or the length of the book. My point is there's blueprints to success already out there. And I'm going to show you how to tap in and identify and leverage those best-selling children's books right now in order to model and succeed with your own. Hope that makes sense. This has also always been part of my approach. If you know anything about me, if you heard my story about how I got started, I started from nothing with like zero knowledge of anything that has to do with digital publishing or online marketing. And I was just so darn stubborn. I didn't take no for an answer. I was just like a pit bull. And when I ran up against an obstacle, I didn't give up. I figured out how to overcome it and move forward. And I recommend that you approach this and not just children's book publishing, but any sort of business venture that you undertake moving forward in your own life in the same way. Because here's the thing, most likely your very first children's book, the very first time that you do this, may not end up on the New York Times bestsellers list. Maybe it's your second book. Maybe it's your third book. That's what it took for me. I actually published three children's books before that particular title just took off, and it's my perennial bestseller. And probably 70% of all of the sales that I make from my kids' books on Amazon come from that single title. But if I had given up on my first kids' book, I never would have gotten to that point. I never would have struck gold with my third kids' book. And so that's what I say, hey, stick with it, don't give up, because your next book may be your biggest yet. And last but not least, please realize that you're not in this alone. We are here for you, okay? We're here to support you. We have hundreds of other members who have already done the same thing that you can connect with over in the Facebook group, who are here to support you if you get stuck, if you run into that obstacle and it seems like an immovable force, if something just isn't making sense to you. If there's one technical aspect of formatting your book, for instance, that you just can't seem to figure out, listen, we are here for you, and you can connect and get help from me and my team by sending us a message in the support tab in this very same members area. If you look up top in that navigation ribbon, it's over on the left-hand side. Click on that support tab and send us a message. Let us know where you're stuck. Let us know how we can help you. And we will do absolutely everything that we can in order to help you get unstuck and move forward. Get your book out there. Start promoting it. Celebrate your first sale. Celebrate your 100th sale. And do everything that we can in order to help you succeed with this program. And on that note, I want to say thanks for hanging in there and watching this introductory module. I hope that you found the information that we covered here was useful, and I hope that you are again excited to move forward into the next module where we're going to be talking about all things book research. I'll see you there. Hey there, it's Jay, and welcome back to Module 2. And this is where it starts to get really interesting. I love this part of the entire children's book writing process. It's book research. And that may sound kind of dry or uninteresting to you, but I know that once you get through the end of this module, you are going to be super excited and know exactly the type of book that you're going to be able to write and publish to Amazon that kids and parents are going to love, and you're going to be perfectly positioned to move on to the next step, which is writing and marketing your book. And as you're about to see, all of the research that you are going to be doing is going to be inside the Amazon children's book marketplace itself. Again, we are not reinventing the wheel. We're seeing what's already working, and we're giving your readers exactly what they want and need in order to help your book shoot to the top of the children's book bestsellers list. And at the end of the day, this book research boils down to just 3 questions that you need to answer. This is all the information that you're going to need. Question number 1, who are you writing for? In other words, who is your target market? Who are those kids? Who is your ideal reader? And what's the specific age range of these kids that you're going to be writing and publishing your book specifically for? Question number 2, what are these kids already interested in? If you're a parent or got kids, maybe you're a grandparent, you probably know what a child age 3 to 5 are going to be interested in. If you don't worry, that's going to be all part of the book research that we're about to do in just a couple minutes here. But this speaks to identifying the interests of the kids so that you know what value you can bring to them, so that you can actually sort of reverse engineer your book specifically to those interests and needs. And finally, question number 3, what are other comparable titles? You're going to be hearing that phrase over and over and over again during this book research module. What are other comparable titles and best-selling books doing that you can model? Again, we are not reinventing the wheel. Instead, we're going to be identifying exactly what's selling right now over at Amazon, what books are showing up on the bestsellers list that early readers can't get enough of, so that we can use that information in order to model our own book after that and give these kids exactly what they want and need, and base that decision upon some real knowledge of the market itself, so that we're not sort of blindly striking out and guessing what types of books these kids are going to love. You're going to know exactly what that information is before you write your book, and everything after that, from writing to publishing to marketing, is going to fall into place easily as a result of having done this research, identifying these comparable titles, and again, modeling your book after what's already working. I'll see you in the next video, and we're going to be exploring this question number 1, who are you writing for, in greater depth. I'll see you there. Hey there, welcome back to the next video in this research module where we're going to be having a closer look at this question number one of those three questions that we just covered in the previous video, namely, who are you writing for? This is so important. This is sort of ground zero and the number one question that every children's book author can and should be asking themselves before they even put virtual pen to paper and start writing your book. Because if you don't know who your audience is, if you don't know specifically who your ideal reader is, how are you going to know what their interests are? How are you going to know what they're looking for? How are you going to know what parents would consider would be age appropriate for them? And so that's why we start here in our book research. Let's talk about demographics. Let's talk about the actual age categories and ranges that Amazon thinks about the children's book marketplace. There's only 4 of them. There's only 4 categories recognized by Amazon. And as a result, because this is how Amazon thinks about and categorizes and markets their children's books, it's going to be necessary for you to start thinking about your book and your ideal reader in these 4 categories as well. These are the 4: baby through 2, corresponding with roughly toddler age children, ages 3 through 5, which is preschool age kids, age 6 through 8, which is grades 1 through 3, and age 9 through 12, which is grades 4 through 6. And just to sort of underline this idea of the importance for you to choose one of these categories, because this is how Amazon is thinking about children's books that they're selling in their marketplace. Let me head on over to Amazon right now. I want to show you one page. This is a page that I found recently, and it confirms what I've known all along, that these are actually the 4 age ranges that they categorize all their kids' books in. Even though they will never explicitly tell you, here's the proof: baby through 2, age 3 to 5, age 6 through 8, and age 9 through 12. And you can actually click through. I'll leave this link under this video. It's worthwhile once you figure out who you're writing books for, which one of these age ranges is going to be perfect for your first children's book. You're going to want to head over here, and it's worth just a look at some of these curated lists by the editors, Amazon editors, whoever that is, picks for kids age baby through 2. Here's more proof, by the way. We're going to be talking about actual categories and keywords. We're going to be talking more about this in future videos and modules, but look at these categories here. Again, these look familiar: baby through 2, 3 through 5, 6 through 8, 9 through 12. Again, I don't want to belabor this point, but I want you to understand the importance of these age ranges so that you can think about your ideal customer in terms of kids in these categories. Make sense? Okay, great. Let me head back over to my PowerPoint, and maybe we'll go full screen here. And by the way, it's not just important to Amazon to identify readers by age group like we've been talking about here. If you're a parent or a grandparent, or you know anything about kids at all, or maybe you just remember from when you were a kid, you may know that there's a tremendous developmental difference between certainly toddlers and 10-year-olds. But even within, the top and bottom age inside those ranges that we were talking about, even between a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, their cognitive development, their reading abilities, their interests are going to be completely different. And that's why it's so important for you to identify a narrow age range in order to create age-appropriate content and match the wants and needs of both their kids and their parents. So just to summarize, certainly there's the marketing aspect of how Amazon looks at these children's book age range categories, and the human aspect like we're talking about here. Okay, in the next videos, we are going to be looking more closely at these 4 categories so that you have a clearer picture of exactly what these kids want, what their expectations of their parents are, where they're at developmentally on this scale, so that you're going to have a better idea of what type of children's book you want to publish for your first kids book. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so let's take a quick closer look at each one of these age categories so that you have a clear picture of these kids themselves. Things like reading levels, what they're looking for, what they're interested in, and what you can deliver to these ideal readers in each one of these categories in the form of your children's book. And we're starting with the baby through 2 category. Of course, this is the youngest reader. We'll call them toddlers for what we're doing here. And I think it's fair to assume that these kids don't have any reading skills at all. And so you can picture these kids sitting next to their parents on their lap in a chair, taking their very first steps in reading. As a parent, I call these board books, and of course, we're in the Kindle ebook marketplace, and so they're actually not physical board books like I remember and like you probably remember as a kid with the big, thick cardboard pages, but they're going to be put together and formatted in the same way. These, of course, are almost going to be entirely and exclusively image based with only a few words of text on each page. And if there are any words on the page, you can imagine that they're probably going to be in a super large font. And they're typically overlaid onto the images themselves. We'll talk more about book formatting in the next module, but I want you to just be able to picture it in your mind right now as we walk through this particular book category. And for the most part, parents are buying these books for these very young children for a reason. For instance, introducing sounds and first words to these children, basic concepts, extremely basic concepts. Now, my wife Patty actually used to be a speech therapist in the schools, and she helped me out with some of this reading level stuff that I'm about to share with you in this video and the next 3 videos. But some examples of the types of books that these parents are buying and reading with these super young children are illustrating stuff like directional and positional stuff. For example, playing with mommy and daddy on a playground, illustrating the concepts of up and down, between and over and under, etc. These Baby Through 2 books are also focusing on things like building a very basic vocabulary, single words, categories, naming things around the house, probably within view of the mom and the child who may be reading this book together, like a clock and a chair and a toy, body parts. Imagine a parent paging through one of these early reader books and pointing to their nose and saying nose, pointing to their lips, pointing to their ears, shapes and colors and animals and foods, etc. Super basic concepts and ideas. And things like letters and numbers. I remember some of the very first books that I read to my kids were ABC books, which were as simple as walking through the alphabet and saying A is for apple with a picture of an apple, B is for banana with a picture of a banana. That's how simple and basic these books can and should be. And I've collected some titles, some of which may be familiar to you, some of which you may not have seen before, just to exemplify this idea of Baby Through 2 books and this category of books with the ideal readers as toddlers. Books like the Eric Carle book. Boy, I loved this book when I was a kid. Brown Bear, What Do You See? Goodnight Moon. Baby's First 100 Words. And of course, an idea like this, we're going to be talking more about book series in later videos, but you can imagine a book like this really lending itself to a series, like the first 20 shapes, first 20 colors, and so forth and so on. Speaking of colors, I forgot I had put this in the slides here. Here's a book specifically on colors, and if you page through it, you'll see that it has no more than, I think, 15 pages with colors and a colorful image or photograph on each one. And finally, here's another one that's very popular, called You Are Not Small. And this is a book, if you open it up, that simply focuses on this idea of big versus small. So I hope you have a better idea of what this particular age category is looking for and how to write age-appropriate books for this particular category, Baby Through 2. Once again, for the very youngest of readers that are just being introduced to this idea of a book, which is going to be brand new to them. I'll see you in the next video where we're going to be talking about the age category 3 through 5. See you there. Next, let's talk about this age 3 through 5. This is, for the most part, going to be preschool kids. Those are going to be your ideal readers. And these are also known as picture books. That's how I refer to them as well. Certainly the age Baby Through 2 are also going to be called picture books generally, but that's kind of my shorthand lingo for the books that are included inside this age category. Like the Baby Through 2 books, these are also going to be almost entirely image-based with a little bit more text on the pages, typically full sentences, sometimes with basic rhymes, rhyming couplets. And again, this text in terms of formatting is going to be overlaid onto the image itself on the page. And of course, these children's brains are developing. They are no longer toddlers. They are growing up. They're almost ready for school in some cases. And as a result, the topics and the ideas that are contained in these books are a little bit more conceptual in terms of subject matter. But again, this is not a textbook, okay? This is a book for kids. This is going to be a fun book. They're going to be image heavy. And if you are publishing to this book category, make sure that those images are in fact excellent, because that's going to be the main focus of these books. And it's these images and illustrations that's going to make these young kids light up and get excited and ooh and ah and want to read your book over and over and over again. An example of some of the concepts that you might include in these books, age 3 to 5, opposites, right? What's the opposite of up? What's the opposite of hot? Another strategy is to talk about the functions of objects: spoons, scoop; knives, cut, so that these associations are made between these common day household objects and their actual functionality. And of course, because these kids are a little bit more developmentally advanced than baby through 2, we're not talking about letters and numbers, we're talking about instead spelling and counting. For instance, how many dogs do you see? Image finding books are so fun and interactive like that if you can find an illustrator who can do that, or if you can do that yourself. You can use something as simple and cheap as free clip art in order to create a sort of visual collage of these objects and say, hey, can you find 3 dogs? Can you find 5 cats, etc.? Some other concepts that show up quite often in in books inside this age category are the ideas of safe versus scary. Sometimes you see a lot of monsters show up as the main characters in these books, or the monster under the bed. Should kids be afraid of it? Is it real? And also family members, moms and dads and grandpas and new babies coming home from the hospital, etc. Lots of fun you can have with some of these characters and concepts with these types of books. Also, wordplay. You can have a lot of fun with wordplay with these books as well. Think Dr. Seuss. Think in terms of rhyming couplets. I would not eat them on a train. I would not eat them on a plane, etc. If you can make that happen and actually write a fun rhyming story in that way, it will absolutely delight those kids and their parents that are going to be reading these books. Alliteration is another device that you can use in these books as well. Tiny Tina takes tea at 10. And that would be a great idea for sort of a next step lettering book, starting out with A and B and C and writing a fun alliterative sentence using each one of those letters and having a fun image on that page that illustrates that alliterative sentence. I'm just brainstorming here. That's all that we're doing. And that's what makes these books so fun. And this is stuff that you can absolutely bake into your own children's book stories. Speaking of which, here's a couple of titles inside this particular category. I mentioned Dr. Seuss, One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. Again, introducing this idea of counting for these kids. I Don't Want to Sleep by Siegel Adler. Siegel Adler is a self-published author just like you and me, and she is absolutely crushing it with these early reader age 3 through 5 books. Be sure to look her up on in the Amazon Marketplace. Head over to her author page if you decide that this is the types of books that you want to publish to Amazon. And this book, Are You My Mother? Maybe you remember this one like I do as a kid, and also reading it to my own kids, by P.D. Eastman. Super simple story idea. How to Catch a Monster by Michael Yu. Actually, Michael Yu is another self-published author, and he publishes these books, or he used to publish these books with his daughter. I believe she was in high school when they started publishing these books. Her name is Rachel, and I know they published lots of monster-related books, and these illustrations are fantastic. And for some reason, kids are just fascinated with monsters at this age. You can see on the cover there, Monster, Monster, 1, 2, 3. And my last example, actually this is Callie Mayer, who is a student of mine. She had never published a children's book before, and she has been very successful publishing these children's books to this particular age group. And I remember she was even featured in the KDP newsletter as one of the most successful kids book authors a couple years ago. So there you go. This has been all about this children's book category age 3 through 5. Again, the ideal readers are preschool kids. And in the next video, we're going to be moving on to the next age group, which is age 6 through 8. I'll see you there. Okay, let's have a closer look at the third age group category. Age 6 through 8, the ideal readers are grades 1 through 3, so early elementary school. And I like to think of these books as sort of early reader books. They're certainly a little bit more advanced in terms of the text, in terms of the concepts covered, and in terms of some of the formatting, where kids are getting into comic books, early comic books, and very short chapter books. And as a dad, I remember my kids were pretty precocious readers, both of them. And I remember this is when they first got turned on to this idea of reading. My daughter was actually a voracious reader in first grade. And this is when it first begins to dawn on some of these kids. Unfortunately, not all kids in the world get turned on to reading at this age. That's why this is sort of a crucial period, developmental period for kids. Because if you can get them hooked at this age, they're going to become lifetime readers. But this is the age when kids start thinking, some kids get the message that reading can actually be fun. And in fact, it could be more fun than playing a video game or just zoning out in front of the boob tube or watching cartoons, what have you. And this is where you can kind of set the hook for some of these kids, even if they're not doing well in school, right? Even if they hate English class or they don't like any of the books that they're being assigned by their teachers. These students are actually called reluctant readers. I didn't even know that that was a thing until I started publishing these types of books to Amazon. And I connected with another author in this space at a conference. He's like, oh yeah, this is the reluctant reader niche. Hello, Jay. But in any case, this is when it really starts to get interesting, and it's reflected in the types and varieties of books that you can start publishing for kids at this age and later. Some of the concepts that you can introduce that are age appropriate at this point in time are problems and solutions, social skills, life situations, etc. You see lots of books like What Would You Do? Talking about ideas of why friends are important and the importance of mom and dad, right? Using good manners and ideas like that. And this is kind of the age where boys and girls kind of go separate ways in terms of their interests and the types of books that they want to read. It's not always the case, and it's certainly not a rule, but this is what I noticed with my kids, and this is what I've noticed just since I've been observing the marketplace for the past 8 or 9 years, is that lots of times boys get interested in funny books, joke books, gross out books, anything related to bodily functions like boogers and farts and poop and barf and burps, etc. I hope you're not blushing when I say these things, but it's just the truth. In fact, my best-selling kids book series is called The Fart Book. And I think one reason why they're so popular is because boys and girls as well start thinking that these ideas are kind of naughty, and they're sort of reading these books behind their parents' back and things like that. And it's exemplified by some books like Captain Underpants and Dog Man, and that's why those books are so popular inside of the Amazon Kindle marketplace, and these are the kids that are consuming them. And on the other hand, girls, as usual, as with other things in life, are a little bit more advanced than boys, and they're interested in other smart girls, adventurous girls doing cool stuff. And there's book series out there like the Unicorn Academy, the American Girl series, and kind of any sort of Disney princess book is an example of this type of book that girls love, 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 absolutely love to be reading at this age. Here's some more examples. Junie B. Jones, I remember this was around when I was a kid for sure, and they're still popular. Captain Underpants, if you haven't read these books, this is a sort of a prime example of these super funny, gross out books that boys absolutely love. And that's why I modeled it for my own book series. If you haven't read these, they are super fun, and you open them up and they're laid out like a comic book. So you can have some fun with the formatting if that's something that you want to do with the books inside this age category as well. Frozen. Here's an example of one of the coolest Disney heroines out there. This was a super popular movie, and this is the type of book, when we're talking about the smart girls having big adventures, this is a great example of that. Joke books, the ever popular joke book. Joke books have been around forever. They will never go out of style. I kick myself every other day for not publishing a joke book. Maybe I'll get around to it in the near future, but suffice it to say, these are ever popular. And you can actually niche these out into knock-knock joke books and your mama joke books, riddles, limericks, you name it. There's lots of different directions that you can go with this basic idea of joke books. And I mentioned Unicorn Academy before. Here is one of those books, and this is sort of latching onto another genre or trend that girls love in this age category, which is horses. I know one of my students, actually a pair of students, teamed up. They live in Australia, and they published what I call the horse mad girl niche. And this is a prime example of a book just like that. So there you go. Hope that this was instructional to you. I'll see you in the next video, and we will be talking about the fourth and final age category that you can be publishing to inside the children's book marketplace. I'll see you then. Okay, let's talk about this last group, the oldest group of kids that we are going to be considering publishing books to, which is age 9 through 12. And why don't I recommend to my students that you publish books for kids older than this? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. Beyond age 12, we're getting into kind of the young adult category, which are basically full fledged novels. I don't want to be writing novels. That's not my specialty. I like low content books, which is what we're talking about with these kids' books, because they're relatively easy to put together and you can get them quickly to market. And honestly, I don't want to be writing 100,000 word novels in the style of Harry Potter. And so that's what I recommend. And that's why this is sort of the top end of the age range that we're going to be thinking about publishing to. The ideal reader, if you want to equate age 9 through 12 with an actual grade, this is later elementary school. This is grades 4 through 6. These are true chapter books, and they typically render out to anywhere between I'd say 4,000 and 10,000 words. The books that I publish to this niche are between 4 and 5,000 words. They actually come together pretty easily, writing short 150, 200 word chapters. And many of the kids that are this age actually own a reading device of their own, or they have permission to use it on an unlimited basis from their parents. I'm talking about tablets and phones, maybe even a laptop or a Kindle reading device. And as such, it's typically connected to a shopping cart on Amazon. And so some of these kids are actually buying these books directly. And so you can think in terms of marketing these books, it's not being mediated in some cases by the parents. They're being purchased and consumed directly by the end user, which are these kids aged 9 through 12. And this is an age range where you can get super fun and imaginative, and fun fiction kind of rules with these 4 through 6 graders. I'm sure you've seen books like this talking about school, anything related to gaming, anything related to certain fantasy topics and characters that are showing up in movies and TV and video games like ninjas and gods. You can think in terms of Rick Riordan and the success that he's had with his Percy books. Supernatural characters, etc. It's all on. Those are all fantastic topics that these kids love to read about. Here's some of the most popular titles that I've collected for you. This is Marcus Emerson. He's another self-published author, and he has a fantastic series called Diary of a Sixth Grade Ninja. Ninjas are crazy popular for whatever reason with these kids, and one of my best-selling books, published to this particular age group, has a ninja just like this on its cover. Babysitters Club. These are kids that, if they're not old enough to babysit, then they aspire to be in middle school and be babysitting young kids. And these are going to be the cool girls that are already babysitting kids and having whatever adventures that they're having in late elementary school and early middle school. Trapped in a video game. This is a great idea for a book. Actually, I modeled a book just like this for one of my own about kids that somehow get sort of shrunk down and dropped into the middle of a video game, which is in some cases every boy's big fantasy. And looking at this book cover image, that illustration is kind of perfect for this type of book. Diary of a Wimpy Kid by one of my heroes, Jeff Kinney. Speaking of book covers, I modeled this particular book cover and templatized it for my best-selling kids book series. I'll be talking about that in later videos, but this is what I'm talking about. Hey, what's working? What can I model? What sort of imagery or what sort of motifs or templatized book covers can you model for your own books that are going to be sort of instantly recognizable and associated with some of the best-selling books out there like Diary of a Wimpy Kid? And last but not least, the Dork Diaries. This is another very popular book series for girls in this age range. And this particular author does a really good job of writing about situational stuff that every girl grades 4, 5, 6 can relate to. In this case, tales from a not so happy birthday, when birthday parties used to be super important and fun, and used to agonize over who gets on the guest list and the presents that you got, etc. That makes a great idea for a story for a book series like this for girls. Okay, so there you go. I hope that this was instructional to you. I hope that you have some ideas now, right? You're getting there. You're getting some ideas in your brain based upon one of these 4 age group categories as to what type of books you want to be publishing to Amazon. Maybe you even know by now. If you don't worry, because you will. By the end of the next video, we are going to be doing a sort of a whirlwind tour of the Kindle Kids Book Marketplace. We're going to be diving into just about every category in there and giving you a taste of what's selling right now and giving you some more ideas of the types of books that you want to be writing and publishing and sending to the bestsellers list over at Amazon. Having said that, I'll see you in the next video. Hey there, it's Jay. I'm back, and we're here. We have arrived at Ground Central for your children's book research, the Amazon Marketplace. What you're looking at here is specifically the bestsellers list for all Kindle ebooks. There's a bestsellers list for ebooks, there's a bestseller books for print books, but I like to do all my research in the Kindle ebooks marketplace just because of the diversity of categories that you'll find here versus the print books bestsellers list. Just FYI, in regards to the bestsellers list, number one, this sort of changes all the time. Amazon is constantly shifting the look of it, and so if it doesn't necessarily look like you're seeing in my screenshot when you browse over there, that's why. They are constantly testing new looks for the bestsellers list and see what converts better, what keeps people engaged, what keeps people clicking through and discovering and buying new books. Amazon is a master of split testing like that, and the ebook marketplace is no exception. For example, they switched between top 100 paid and top 50. They used to just do the top 20 on each one of these bestsellers list pages. Right now they're featuring the top 100 on this single page. And so please bear all that in mind as we do our grand tour of the Kindle bestsellers lists here. And what we're looking at specifically now is what I call the big dog list. This is the top 100 of all Kindle ebooks. You will find some children's books on here. There's the ever popular Harry Potter. But for the most part, we're going to be super targeted in the categories that we are choosing in order to do our research here, because we're specifically looking for kids books, of course. And speaking of categories, you're going to find the various categories for all the Kindle ebooks here in the left-hand sidebar. And this is how I encourage you to think about this when you're thinking in terms of Kindle ebook categories, where you want to get your book found on, etc. I want you to think about these as sort of bookshelves. I want you to imagine that you're walking into maybe a big box bookstore, 100,000 square feet, and you're just walking around and you're going to pass the table right up front there with maybe the sale items or maybe the hot selling books. You're going to wander to the back of the store and you're going to maybe find history books. You're going to see shelves with business books on them. You're going to see psychology books. You're going to see fiction, nonfiction, of course children's books as well. Well, I want you to think of this marketplace in those terms. And when we're doing this research, we're not only looking for what are some of the hottest selling children's books in the Kindle marketplace period, but I also want you to be thinking in terms of where would you like to have your book found? In other words, what virtual bookshelf would you want people to cruise on over to Amazon and start browsing in order to find a book exactly like yours? What's most suitable? What's more competitive? What's less competitive? All that information, all that data is hiding here inside the marketplace itself, and I'm going to be showing you all of that in future videos. But for the purpose of what we're doing right now, I want to show you the specific categories that I recommend you do your research for these kids books in. And this is going to be a crazy fun brainstorming session for you as well. And so if you don't already know the types of books that you want to be publishing to the kids book marketplace, I guarantee by the end of this whirlwind research session that you will know and will be ready to move on to actually writing your book in the next module. And so first things first, in this video I want to show you the major categories that you're going to be doing your research, the little pockets of children's books that you wouldn't necessarily know unless you were like me and you're over here doing research all the time. Certainly there is the children's ebook category. That is in fact the largest dedicated children's book category on Amazon here, and that's where we're going to be doing most of our research. But there's a couple other categories and subcategories that I want to bring your attention to because they are additional bookshelves that you can get your book showing up on, number one. And number two, there's types of books and niches of children's books that are found in these categories that aren't necessarily found in this larger children's book category. And so first and foremost, let's cruise over to the nonfiction ebook category, and inside here you can see a dedicated children's nonfiction category. I'll click into that. And here we're going to be looking at the various nonfiction children's book subcategories that you can be publishing to. This is sort of the big dog list for this children's nonfiction larger category, but you can see the subcategories like animals. We can click into that. And these are nonfiction trivia books, if you will, featuring animals like T-Rex, like snakes. You're also going to see, this is interesting, there's lots of Spanish language books, particularly in this category. I'm not sure what the reason is for that, but that's great news for you and me. And this is something that I've been keeping an eye on and monitoring for a couple years. There have not been a lot of Spanish language books until recently showing up on the bestsellers list, which is really interesting because that means that any English language book that you're currently selling inside of Amazon can easily be translated into a Spanish language book. If it's successful in English, it will very likely be successful in Spanish, and the market is there. Those buyers are here, as evidenced by the fact that several of the top 10 inside this nonfiction animals category are in fact Spanish language books. Here's another one about sharks. Here's Discover Puppies, right? Again, these are trivia books about puppies and ants and why do kittens do that? Real things that kids love to know. What's your spirit animal? These are all great ideas if you're thinking about publishing a nonfiction book to Kindle. And in fact, you can do an entire book series just focusing on different animals and including some fun facts or trivia about that particular animal. I don't have time to click into all of these subcategories, but I just want to give you sort of a quick shorthand view of some of the major ones that I think might be successful and might be fun to publish too. Click into people and places. I bet we'll find some biographies in here. Here it is. Here's the biographies subcategory. And if we scroll down, here's Hidden Figures, which was a popular movie released not too long ago based upon some historical figures that has been apparently made into a children's book. Here is a book on Cleopatra. Here is a biography, a kid's biography for Michelle Obama, Walt Disney, Simone Biles. I bet you could get most of the source content and factual information that you would need in order to publish a kid's book biography like this just from a Wikipedia page and fleshing it out into a full-length kid's book manuscript on Walt Disney, what have you. Let's have a look at another subcategory before we move on here in children's nonfiction. What about computers? I've actually never checked out this subcategory here. And I know this is supposedly a nonfiction category, children's nonfiction, but you will notice in your travels over here in Amazon that some authors have snuck in some fiction books for kids. This is on computers. This kind of makes sense to have a Diary of a Minecraft Zombie book here. If kids are interested in computer related stuff, even if they're browsing a nonfiction category, etc. You can see lots of books like that here. Coding with Lego WeDo. I'm not sure what that is, but kids coding books. I remember my son took a kids coding lesson. It was an online course. I think it cost us $90 or something like that a couple years ago when he was totally into that. He actually got good at coding apps for Minecraft. I think a video game cheats book would do really well here. For kids that want to get to whatever level 6 of Minecraft, you'll have some smarty pants kid help you write that one. In any case, that's the children's nonfiction subcategory, and feel free to head over and browse through it and see what's available there, because I think it's going to give you a good idea again of what's available simply by seeing all of the kids' biographies available, for instance, like we did in this quick little research session here. So let me head back over to the general Kindle ebooks, and I want to show you one more. I want to show you one more category that you're going to find a dedicated children's book subcategory in. And I'm here in the religion and spirituality category, and I click into Christian books and Bibles. And I'm going to click into the children's subcategory here, because the Christian books niche in general is huge and it is super lucrative. And if that's of interest to you, it's something that you might consider in terms of publishing Christian kids books. I have a student of mine that actually started publishing to this niche, I think in 2014, 2015, and has generated almost $800,000 in royalties just by publishing exclusively to this Christian book niche. Some of his books are kids' books, some of them are for adults. But let's have a quick look at this Christian children's book subcategory because they actually don't have a dedicated category like this over in the children's book marketplace. We can see some of these titles. Mommy, Why Don't We Celebrate Halloween? That is a seasonal title, certainly. Here's one called If Jesus Lived Inside My Heart. Laugh and Learn Bibles for Kids. The Action Bible. This looks like kind of a graphic novel for kids that are interested in this Christian book niche. Let's click into the Bible subcategory, and I bet we'll have lots of Bible stories. Here's one, 365 Historical Bible. This is another Spanish language Christian niche. That's kind of interesting. I haven't seen that, but that certainly makes sense, right? Another seasonal title, The Christmas Story. Depending on the time of year, those seasonal titles can do really well. And then they sort of drift out and off of the bestsellers list after that holiday has passed. But I have some seasonal children's book titles that shoot to the bestsellers list over and over again when Halloween comes around and when Christmas time comes around, etc. Here's 365 Read Aloud Bedtime Bible Stories. What a great idea. Just Us Girls. Bible study on being God's girl in middle school. Remember we were talking about, this looks like a Christian kids book version of some of those books that we were looking at in the 9 to 12 age category. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds here, but I wanted to bring this to your attention and let you know if this is a specific niche, and I have lots of students that are publishing only to the Christian books niche. I just want to let you know where to find it and to look for some other titles that you can model for your Christian kids books. Okay, let me back out of here and head back over to the general Kindle marketplace. And in the next video, we are going to be diving into the humongous and fun children's book marketplace and actually going through some of these almost 24 subcategories, again, so that we can see what the heck is selling, identifying any brand new trends like we saw with the Spanish language kids books, and at the end of the day, getting some ideas for your own kids' books that you're going to be publishing as soon as we get through this research module. And so I will see you in the next video, and we will continue on our way with our research. Okay, we're back here, and we are in the Big Dog Children's ebook bestsellers list. And we're going to continue with our research here again so that you are going to be able to know by the end of this research module exactly the types of kids books that you want to move forward and start publishing your first kids book to the Amazon Marketplace for. Now we're going to be diving into these particular subcategories one by one. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think it's going to be instructive. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I know that it's going to spark ideas, and you're going to have some huge light bulb moments by simply following me through these best-selling categories and seeing what's selling right now. So let's click into the first category here, action and adventure. And quite honestly, I know for a fact that this category, for the most part, is either going to be sort of branded characters like Mickey and Minnie and the Incredibles, or it's going to be, stuff like Harry Potter. Again, this is young adult stuff, and it's kind of beyond the scope of what we're going to be doing. But let's just scroll down and see what's happening here. See if we can notice anything that we can jump on and any trends that we can identify to model. Here's a book, Spring is Everywhere. Of course, trucks are huge. I think there's going to be a dedicated truck category that we are going to be looking at in our travels here. But boys absolutely love trucks. I think most of the juicy stuff that you're going to find inside this action and adventure category is going to be in some of these subcategories, and if any of them pique your interest, for instance survival stories or maybe pirates, then feel free to do so. But I'm going to head back over here and click into the activities, crafts, and games subcategory. Again, cool cars and trucks. You can't escape it here in the Amazon Kids Book Marketplace. Boys, especially boys of a particular age, I'm thinking 3 to 5, 6 to 8, perhaps on the top end, they love all things trucks. And so again, we're just identifying trends and seeing what we can use as brainstorming material for our own book. In this crafts category, here's a baking one. Everyone loves a cupcake. Models to build. The unofficial Harry Potter cookbook. And because it's unofficial, I believe this author probably doesn't have to worry about licensing. I don't know if I would necessarily do that. I think you might get a cease and desist letter from the Harry Potter people, but in any case, something to think about, right? We're just brainstorming here. Campfire cooking. You can be a chef, right? So apparently kids cooking books are doing well here, as evidenced by some of the titles just showing up on the bestsellers list of activities, crafts, and games. Let's click into the animals subcategory, and we saw some of these over in the virtual nonfiction bookshelves. But one thing that I like to do when I'm looking at the animals bestsellers list is to do a quick little visual survey and scroll down and see if there's any trending animals that are showing up over and over again on the bestsellers list. For instance, here is a bear. Curious George is a monkey, a mouse, cat, another cat, here's another cat, there's another cat, there's a T-Rex, there's Mickey, there's a creepy crawler spider, there's another cat, doghouse, Pete the cat, there's a shark, another cat. Okay, so cats, right? So I think we can identify cat as a hot topic, I should say a hot character that kids are interested in. If in fact you are thinking about publishing a general animal book to Amazon, and it doesn't necessarily matter too much to you whether it's a cat or a dog or a horse or a mouse, you could do worse based upon this information by making a cat the main character in your animal book story. Let's continue on here. I'm going to click into arts, music, and photography and scroll down. I'm interested. Architecture, it seems like a daunting, let me click into that. I'm just kind of curious, see if there are any specific architecture books for kids. Here's one, castle, skyscrapers. Who knew, right? I've never been in this subcategory before. What were the Twin Towers? Maybe an introduction to the 9/11 story for kids. Build it. Legos. My gosh, Legos are showing up over and over and over again. Empire State Building. Wow, this is we're actually finding some building related or architecture related titles on this sub category on the bestsellers list. The Golden Gate Bridge. Again, these are some nonfiction titles that you might consider. The Great Wall of China, etc. So this is really interesting, and this is why we do this. I come here every time and I see different stuff, and I see categories that I've never even considered researching or publishing to, and I see some categories disappear. I see brand new categories that show up that weren't there before. Let me scroll down here really quickly, see if there's anything of note. And when I say anything of note, I'm looking for trends related to this specific category of arts, music, and photography. If there's unrelated books here like Harry Potter or Dork Diaries, I'm not so interested. I'm looking at the trending topics, the trending titles, trending characters, trending ideas that are specific to these subcategories. That's what's of interest to me the most as I'm doing my research here. Let's click into biographies. We saw a dedicated biographies tab, I should say category, over in the nonfiction bookshelves. And we're seeing some of the same titles. Here's Walt Disney, there's Michelle Obama, Harriet Tubman, there's Oprah, Helen Keller, Trevor Noah for kids. Not necessarily a kid's show, but boy, he's got a great story. So what I'm mostly taking away here is that I thought we'd be mostly looking at biographies of young celebrities and folks that are actually living. Here's one of Taylor Swift and Daniel Radcliffe. Those would be easy enough to put together, wouldn't they? But there's also biographies of historical figures showing up on this bestsellers list as well, like Edison and Tesla and Helen Keller, Harriet Tubman, which I wouldn't necessarily suspect would be best-selling kids' books. And so that's something to take note of as well if you're thinking about writing a nonfiction biography for kids. Click into cars and trains and things that go. And as I suspected, and as I mentioned before, you're looking at trucks, fire engines, monster trucks, Hot Wheels looking cars, police cars, construction vehicles. Remember Bob the Builder? I remember Bob the Builder when, as a dad, when I had a young son, he used to watch that all the time. Ambulances, basically anything with wheels on it, kids are going to love, specifically boys are going to love. And look at this digging ABC. I would imagine there's going to be some building or construction vehicle for every letter of the alphabet. I don't know how that's possible, but kudos to Margaret Mayo there for that great idea. And speaking of ideas, if you're sparking any ideas, if you're getting any light bulbs, if you're getting any ideas for books that you would like to write as we go through and do our hands-on research here in the Kids Book Marketplace, jot them down quickly. We are actually going to be recording all that information in the next video in a worksheet that I've created for you. But listen, jot it down in a notepad or on a yellow legal pad if that's how you choose to remember stuff and record stuff when you're doing research like this, so that it doesn't slip away. We're going to be uncovering some great ideas here as we go about our research, and that's what I recommend. So just don't lose these ideas, jot them down and record them as we cruise through and do this research. Comics and graphic novels. And this is a cool book format for older kids, right? We're talking 6 through 8, 9 through 12 probably. And we're seeing some familiar books that I wouldn't necessarily consider to be graphic novels, but in the broader sense, like Wimpy Kid and Big Nate, could be considered a graphic novel or even a comic book, depending on the illustration style. Then we just click into Dav Pilkey here. This is a true graphic novel for 6 to 8 or even a little bit older. Dog Man. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this book. This is the same author as Captain Underpants, and it is truly in comic book style. Actually, these are illustrated cells on an illustrated page. Certainly not easy or probably cheap to outsource to an illustrator. We'll be talking about that in future videos. But just to give you some idea of what's possible within this comic book / graphic novel format. My Monster Farts, that was I told you I'm the author of the Fart books, and this is a former student of mine, Kate Clary, who took a page out of my book and started publishing fart books, and she's actually even more successful with them than I am. So let's head back over and check out the next one in line here, Computers and Technology. Easy for me to say. And we saw some of these same books over in a similar computer and tech category. Diary of a Minecraft Zombie, Trapped in a Video Game. Computers and video games are huge, and there are some kids that are there are some boys that are as crazy about computer and video game related books as there are girls that are interested in princess books, and they're kind of in the same age there, specifically 6 through 8, maybe 9 through 12. But let's just quickly look at some of the titles here. Minecraft, Diary of a Skeleton Steve, using the same title motif as Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Here's another one, Diary of a Minecraft Creeper. Now, I don't have knowledge of Minecraft the game, but I have a son that was really good at Minecraft when he was younger, and this might be an interesting type of book to write with a son or grandson of yours who actually has some knowledge of the game. And again, if you feel a little bit weird about maybe using a branded game like Minecraft, you could take the route that Dustin Brady did in his Trapped in a Video Game series and just make it a generic video game and create your own fantastic story about what happens inside of that world. Let's head back over here and let's check out early learning. And this is one of the most popular categories for my students to start publishing too. And I think this is an attractive category for several reasons. Number one, because these are virtual board books and picture books. These are not going to be very long. You're not going to need a lot of text or story involved with these books. And they are largely image-based, which is kind of a double-edged sword because you're going to have some pretty cool illustrations in the first place to be publishing these types of books. But they don't have to be, super fantastic either. Like this. I mean, this is an interesting illustration style, but it's not hard to do. And I bet you could easily find an illustrator over at Fiverr who could create images like this for you. These are not super complex or stylistically advanced, and it's a #1 bestseller. So there you go. I'm just interested. I wonder how many pages we're looking at here. 48 pages, which is sort of on the high end for these early reader books. Let me head back over here. On the other hand, looking at some of the bestsellers on this early learning book category, they're not all illustrations. For instance, look at this nonfiction Spider book. Again, please note this is a Spanish language book showing up number 5 in the early learning kids book category. Or this one. Let's have a closer look at this. I think I included this one in my slides, but just to illustrate the fact that you don't necessarily need illustrations. These are actually photographs just put on a colorful backdrop. And who knows, you may be able to find these on a royalty-free image site like Pixabay, in which case you're just dropping it onto a purple background or an orange background or a white background, what have you, and writing slippers or ducky or a bottle or broccoli or cheese underneath it there. So again, you have some latitude. We're not just talking about illustrated books here. Some of these are photographic, which is good to know. Let's head back over to the Big Dog Children's Book List and we'll click into Education and Reference. And look at this, foreign language. I bet we'll find a lot of Spanish language books here. And look, we've hit the mother lode. Caliente Frio, Hot or Cold, Police Cars in Action. Here's an animal book. Here's a monster truck book. Here's another animal book. Sharks, ambulances. This is kind of new, and this is why I'm thrilled to see this again, because now you know, and I know, and we all know that with any English language book, if it's going to be selling in English, you know now that there's a dedicated category to sell it in as a Spanish language book. And it would require very little work in order to simply translate it and get up the same content in a different language and possibly double your sales for the very same Kindle ebook. This is the stuff that gets me excited. I'm a nerd, okay? Maybe it gets you excited as well. If not, it should. Let's check out fairy tales, folk tales, and myths. We've got some Disney titles here. We have some holiday related books. Here's Little Gingerbread Man, again a Spanish language title. We see Percy Jackson. I always thought it was such a great idea that the children of these Greek gods are the main characters for this young adult series. And to just see how far you can go with a series like this, I don't know how many movies they've made of Percy Jackson novels, but I know it's at least 2 or 3. And look how you can drill down into African, Arthurian, Asian, dragons, European. Look at these niche subcategories in this larger subcategory of fairy tales, folk tales, and myths. Pretty cool. Let's head on down the line. We'll click into geography and cultures. And not sure, I haven't spent too much time in this category here. Not seeing too many geography related books. Here's one, Island of the Blue Dolphins. Here's African Cats, combining a couple different topics there. Along the Tapajos, not sure what that is. That looks like a historical period piece for kids. Other Worlds for Home, etc. I don't know too much about this category, but the subcategories are worth clicking into if we had more time than we do. Let's check out Growing Up and Facts of Life. And the subcategories are difficult discussions, which makes me think of maybe a book for young kids on perhaps a grandparent dying and what it means to not have Grammy there and not have them in your life to play with and read books with and cook in the kitchen with, etc. A book like that would be an interesting storyline for maybe age 3 through 5. Family life, friends, social skills, and school life. Health. Let's check out health here. And inside of health are some interesting little subtopics, and this really brings to mind what you can do again for sort of that early reader age group, like this one. Oh my gosh, Sometimes You Barf. This is a really interesting title. I am not familiar with this. It looks relatively new. It's a #1 bestseller. Let me click into it here. We can have a closer look. And I love these illustrations. They're fun. But this book is also kind of instructive. And I could see this being useful for a parent to buy to a kid, maybe who throws up for the first time and is totally freaked out about it. And here's a mom saying, everyone barfs once in a while, right, Archie? Cows barf, cats barf, alligators barf, I think worms barf. This is funny, but it's also instructive, and I can see this being really helpful for kids who maybe threw up once and they're like, oh my gosh, what was that? And just being, terrified about that. I won't, maybe I'll click into that a little bit later, but this is what we do the research for. To get ideas. In this case, the Sometimes You Barf book, I'm trying to find the darn, where are we? Here we are, which is not necessarily a humorous book for a comic value along the lines of Captain Underpants, but instead it's an instructive book for kids just to make them understand that it's a fact of life and it's nothing to be afraid of. We can see toilet training. I'll never forget the whole potty training experience, and these are books that parents are buying all the time so they can sit down and read it with their children who are transitioning from diapers to actually going to the bathroom on a toilet. In any case, I hope this is giving you, again, some light bulb moments doing this training, seeing what's selling right now in the Amazon marketplace so that you can get some ideas and model these types of books for your first book published to Amazon. Let's check out history. And we can look at the subcategories, and we have some countries and regions of the world. We have some historical events like the Holocaust, some historical periods like the Renaissance, etc. And again, if you're interested in nonfiction kids books, check out this history category. While we move on here to holidays and celebrations, again, this is the seasonal titles, seasonal kids book titles sell like crazy, starting at 30 days before the holiday. I wouldn't publish exclusively seasonal titles simply because Santa books are not going to be selling very well in the summertime. But it's great to see that sales spike, for instance, before Halloween for a book like this, Pumpkin Jack. Let's head back over to the big list here and we'll check out humor, one of my favorite categories, and we'll see what's cooking here in the humor category for kids. You can see a couple subcategories like cartoons and jokes and riddles. Let's click into jokes and riddles, even though I show this, I feature this extensively on the original kids book formula training. But just look at all the different types of jokes and riddles books and where you can go with them. You can niche it out into doctor's jokes and animal jokes for kids and food jokes for kids, holiday jokes for kids. Look at these templatized book covers. We're going to be talking about that when we talk about book series. But this author, Pam Rosenberg, does a fantastic job with that and niching out this idea of jokes books with a doctor in the O, and there's a banana in the middle of the O, and there's a cow in the middle of the O for the animal joke books. This is one of the best-selling joke books, period, in Kindle, the Laugh Out Loud Jokes for Kids. We can have a quick look at that with almost 5,000 reviews. #1 bestseller. You can see these jokes. I mean, they're not amazing jokes, and I bet that you could find a lot of similar jokes like this or riddles like this in the public domain, which means that they're available for free, and I bet you could find hundreds of them similar to this online. Who keeps the ocean clean? The mermaid. Why did the invisible man turn down a job offer? He just couldn't see himself doing it, etc. These aren't amazing jokes, but boy, if you collect them all, if you collect a couple hundred, and you come up with a cool looking book cover image like this, I bet you could do really well with a joke book. Let's have another quick look. Knock knock jokes, silly jokes for kids, right, with a dinosaur on the cover. Here's another seasonal one, knock knock boo hoo. Riddles, awesome jokes for kids that are for 8-year-olds that every 8-year-old should know. That's another way to niche it out. I bet this author, here it is, awesome jokes that every 6-year-old should know. Awesome jokes that every 9-year-old should know. You getting some ideas? Can you see all the different directions that you can go just within this joke book niche? Let's click back into the humor category, as this is one of my favorite categories to browse. There's mine right there. That's one of my best-selling kids books, Ninja Farts. I'll be doing a case study on that later in this program. But there you go. That's the humor category. I love it. It's easy to write. They're fun to write, and kids love them. Literature and fiction. Let me click into that. And let's see if there's anything. Honestly, we're not writing literature. This is not a category that I recommend. Fiction's very general. We can see some of the categories here. Beginning readers, I bet that's going to be very close to the early reader category. Stories about toys, nursery rhymes, imagination and play. Just a little too broad for me to jump in, at least looking at this bestsellers list for this category, literary and fiction. And again, we're not writing the great American novel for kids, so hope you don't mind that I sort of breezed through that one. And now we're into mysteries and detectives. And let's see if we can find some that are actually appropriate to that category. There's Holes, that was a popular movie. Spy School, that's along the lines of like a 6th grade ninja book. Boxcar Children, fairy tales. Interesting. Let's head over and we'll finish up our tour of the children's book marketplace. We'll click into religions. And I stand corrected. I said that there was no specific Christian kids book category here inside this Big Dog children's ebook category, but I stand corrected. And you'll see a lot of the same titles here, I would imagine, that you saw in that nonfiction category that we looked at in the previous video. And they sort of run the gamut between early readers and a little bit older, but they mostly skew earlier. I would say 3 to 5 and 6 through 8 are the ideal readers for at least most of the books that are showing up on the bestsellers list here. I would pay particular attention to early readers category, prayer category, and the Bible category here. I would think those would probably be the most marketable inside that Christian kids book category. Let's check out science fiction, fantasy, and scary stories. I'm thinking this is going to be for older readers, and that's what it kind of looks like to me. I see The Hobbit, I see The Hunger Games, I see Percy Jackson, and I see Mary Poppins and Harry Potter. So yeah, again, this is mostly for kids lit or young adult books, which is beyond the scope of what we're doing here. So let me click back into here as we finish it up. Science, nature, and how it works. Interesting nonfiction title. Look at some of these subtitles: biology, botany, chemistry, earth sciences. Let me click into biology here. Agriculture, inside the human body. Everything Kids Science Experiments book. Mushrooms of the Upper Midwest. That doesn't look like a kid's book to me. A tour of the digestive system. This is where it's getting interesting. A tour of your circulatory system. These are true biology books for kids, and they are showing up on the top 10 of the bestsellers list. And so if that's something that is of interest to you and you would like to publish to this cool niche, I recommend that you do so. I wonder how close maybe chemistry. Is chemistry for kids? Science experiments, molecules, the Wonder Book of Chemistry, candy experiments. This looks like so much fun. This would be, I'm thinking, age 6 through 10 or 9 through 12. Cool chemistry activities for girls. That's an interesting niche there. Atoms and molecules. Wow, I'm really interested. I find it so interesting that there are titles relevant and specific to these subtitles here inside of Science, Nature, and How It Works. And so if you're a science buff or that's a topic that is of interest to you, then you'll be happy to know that you can absolutely publish a best-selling book inside these specific disciplines here, inside the category of Science, Nature, and How It Works. And last but not least, let's click into sports and outdoors, and let's see what sort of kids books we find here. There's a gymnastics book, a Spanish language gymnastics book. We Love Soccer. This is a Berenstain Bears book, but of course you can publish a similar book with your own cool kid series. There's a camp book, Fruits and Suits, not sure what that is. Shark Attack, Pete the Scuba Cat, A Day at the Beach. Wow, what a fun categories. Peppa Goes Swimming. Flat Stanley at that. Remember Flat Stanley? There's that Simone Biles biography. Alright, so there you go. I hope that this was eye-opening to you. I hope that this was instructive. I hope that you have some ideas about the types of books, the category of books, the topics, maybe the characters, fiction, nonfiction, that you can be publishing and profiting from with your own kids' books inside the Amazon Marketplace. And if you do, we are ready to move forward. We're almost ready to start writing our book, but we have to actually record this information and drill down even further into your chosen niche. We're going to do that in the next video as we fill out the children's book research worksheet that I have set up for you. I'll see you there. Hey there, it's Jay, and I'm back, and we have completed our whirlwind tour of the Amazon Kids Book Marketplace. We've done the research that we need to do. Hopefully you've picked out a general type of book that you would like to publish as your first children's book to Amazon. If you don't have that, if you still don't have a clue, if you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I'm any closer to determining the type of book that I want to publish, that's okay. Just head back and watch these research videos one more time until you do. And if you're kind of sitting on the fence and you're thinking, well, I think I'm attracted to this type of book for whatever reason, I recommend that you just go with your gut and go with that and move forward with that book idea, if only for the sake of completing this research worksheet. And speaking of which, let's jump right in. What you're looking at is the Word document version of this worksheet, but below this video you will also find a Google Docs version. It's completely editable. You're going to be able to jump in and actually enter the answers to these questions that you're going to find inside the worksheet right in the document itself. And once we have this basic research done and documented, we're going to be ready to move forward and actually start writing and illustrating your book in the very next module. But let's get started here. Let's talk about book type. And this is what we have been digging into in this research module here. Again, if you have an idea, great, let's go with it and flesh it out in the form of completing this worksheet. And if you have more than one idea, it's totally okay to complete this worksheet for each one of those ideas that you have. And so again, question number one, what type or category of book are you most interested in publishing for your first children's book? And is this going to be a fiction book or a nonfiction book? For example, Learning ABCs, nonfiction, a monster story for boys, that would be a fiction book, typically. Dinosaur trivia, we're talking a nonfiction book. A female athlete biography, a nonfiction book. Maybe a 6th grade spy series for older readers. I would call that a fiction book. So go ahead and type in whatever it is. Let's call it, just for what we're doing here, we'll call it an ABCs book. And that brings us to question number two. Who's your ideal reader? We've talked about ideal reader, and you should have a very good idea at this point in time of who this is if you've already selected a type of book that you want to publish to Amazon. So here's the question. What age range best describes your ideal reader? And again, that's going to be baby through 2, 3 to 5, 6 through 8, or 9 through 12. There's no right or wrong answers here. You can have sort of an in-between book niche. That's okay. Just enter your best educated guess based upon what you know, maybe some other books that you've seen, some stuff that we've talked about in this research module, etc. And I'm going to, for the case of our example here, I'm going to say baby through 2. And the follow-up question, if you had to pick the most appropriate gender for your ideal reader, would it be boys or girls? It could be both, but for example, if you wanted to write an ABCs book on types of different trucks or cars, then it would make sense to go ahead and put down boys for the gender of your ideal reader. Next question, comparable titles. We're going to be talking about this a lot in this research worksheet here, but what I'm basically getting at here is 10 books inside this same niche or category that are closely related to the type of book that you want to publish. And let's head back over to Amazon so that we can continue with this example here of an ABCs book. Here we are in the early learning category, and we can see number 2, we saw this book previously, The First 100 Words. I would say this is right in the pocket of the type of book that we're talking about here, and so we could use this as a comparable title. And what we're going to do as far as adding these comparable titles to our worksheet is we're going to actually take the URL up top here and add that link directly into the worksheet like that, so that we can actually link out directly to these books at a later date and remind ourselves, oh yeah, I've already done that research. Here's 10 books that are super similar to the type of book that I'm talking about, so that we can easily jump back in and identify some trends or topics or commonalities or other things that we're going to use to model those books and achieve success with our own ABCs book. Let's head back over to Amazon. We'll get a couple more. I do know that if we click into the subcategory Basic Concepts inside of Early Learning, there's a dedicated alphabet book category. And so all of these books would be great to sort of click into and open up, and you can hit Control A and then Control C is the shortcut on your keyboard, and you can just drop it right here into number 2. Okay, so let's head back over to this category, this dedicated alphabet category. Look at this. We've got Elmo's ABC book, ABCs of cookies. We have dinosaurs A to Z. And again, we could be talking about trucks A to Z. We could be talking about animals A to Z. We could be talking about foods A to Z. Those are all great ways to niche out this idea of an ABC alphabet book. Wonder Woman ABCs, these are all comparable titles. You may want to focus on the ones that are not necessarily branded, like Wonder Woman and Cookie Monster there. Look at this one, ABCs for boys. This looks like exactly what I was talking about. Hey, if you have a topical treatment of this idea of an ABCs book, for instance, in this case, it looks like this is going to be some like ABCs of construction equipment and vehicles, etc. More power to you. You can have an ABCs for boys, and of course that begs the question, what about ABCs for girls? You've got the next book in your book series already kind of taken care of. Let me show you a couple different ways that you can find some more comparable titles. If you scroll down into this or any other book listing page, that's what I call these pages, book listing pages for each individual book inside the Amazon Marketplace. You can look at these customers who also bought lists for some ideas. You can also look at sponsored products related to this item. You can also click through to an author's page. If you click out of the author's name, and they have an author's page set up, of course, which this author does not. All right. Let's try this one. I'm pretty sure Roger Priddy has an author page. There they are. This is another great way to find comparable titles if in fact he's publishing several different books in this vein. You can see, I didn't know he was the author of Dinosaurs A through Z, but there's numbers, colors, and shapes, first 100 animals, first 100 trucks, etc. Again, this is one more way outside of the bestsellers list and also bots and sponsored products for you to come up with ideas for your comparable titles list. So go ahead and get at least 10 comparable titles related to your book. After that, we can scroll down and input any characters that show up in the books on your comparable titles list. In this case, we could say Cookie Monster. I remember seeing an ABC's Cookie Monster book. I would call those construction, I can't type and talk at the same time, construction vehicles. Right? Those are the other characters in that other ABC's book that we saw. Go ahead and list at least 5 characters that are showing up either on the covers of these book or in the title or in the description, etc. Monsters, princesses, middle school girls, ninjas, horses, what have you, whatever you find for these comparable titles. In the same way, you're also going to be looking for interests or topics or trends that are being represented in these titles or covers or descriptions of these comparable titles as well. And this is going to be important in the next module when we actually start writing our book and we start using the mashup strategy that I'm going to be describing to you then. So go ahead and fill in at least 5 interests or topics or trends related to the books, the types of books that you're finding here on your comparables titles list. Book covers. What are some characteristics of the most popular book covers in your genre? Is there a commonality of colors that show up all the time? Are they photographic covers versus illustrated covers? What types of characters are you seeing, boys or girls? What shape are the covers of the books that you're seeing? Are they square? Lots of children's books, especially the books for the younger readers, are actually square, simulating an actual board book. Some are portrait style. A couple are landscape. I would not recommend that, but it's mostly for children's books, either square cover shapes or portrait style cover shapes. Go ahead and enter that information here under question 6. What about keywords? Are there any relevant keywords that you're going to find on this list of comparable titles in this book category or genre or niche that you're thinking about publishing your first kids book to? They could be specific and calling out your ideal reader. For instance, for kids age 3 to 5. They could be a bedtime story, maybe picture book, preschool kids, Spanish language, funny, spooky, gross out, whatever keywords that you find inside your comparable titles that are relevant and worth taking note of, go ahead and enter them here, 1 through 5. What about illustrations? What's the average number of illustrations found on the interior of some of these books that you've added to your comparable titles list? Of course, you can see some of them in the look inside feature of some of these books that we're talking about here. But the look inside feature is not the entirety of the book. What you're looking for is an actual illustration count, and you may end up purchasing some of these books. I recommend that you do. You can find a lot of them, especially in the children's book niche, for 99 cents. But I recommend that you invest in yourself, in your business, and for these best-selling books that are right in the pocket for the type of book that you want to publish as well. Don't be shy. Go ahead and purchase 2 or 3 or more of them, open them up, and actually get a count of the number of illustrations inside the book. And in doing so, you're going to get a really good idea of the type of language that the author is using, characters, rhymes, what have you. You're going to get tremendous insight into this market simply by purchasing some of these books and opening them up and reading them. And once you do that for a couple books and you find out, oh my gosh, there's 18 illustrations in these books, go ahead and just enter some of those numbers in here under question number 8. Ebook pricing. You're going to want to get both the ebook pricing and the print book pricing. And let me head back over here and show you where to find that. And let me click into this one here. I can see the Kindle ebook pricing is $5.99, which is on the higher end, and you can click on this for the hardcover version. This is in the paperback version. If they have a paperback version available, take that price, because not all books have a hardcover version and it can be a little bit more expensive for those. But if they have a paperback version price, get that. But again, we've got $5.99 for the Kindle ebook version. And all I want you here is to enter one of 3 prices, either 99 cents, $2.99, or $2.99 plus. I have to put this plus in here. So anything above $2.99, in which case $5.99 will qualify. Just go ahead and type that in. I'm going to go $2.99 plus. Do it for all 10 books on your comparable titles list, and then go ahead and enter either the print or the hardcover price for that particular book under question number 10 as well. Page count. You can find the page count easily. You don't even have to purchase the book. Scroll down here to this product details section on the book listing page, and it will give you a page count right here. Hardcover 32 pages. The Kindle should be comparable to that. Yeah, 32 pages. So go ahead and check out each one of the 10 books that are on your comparable titles list and enter that here under question 11. Question 12 is bestseller categories. We're almost done here. Let's head back over to my browser and let's check out some of these bestseller categories and show you where to find them. Again, if you scroll down from the top and you go past product details, at the very bottom here, you're going to find this where it says Amazon bestseller rank, and a couple categories underneath it. Go ahead and click through. Let me click through here. And again, just copy paste these URLs, Control A, Control C, and take note of the category path. In this case, early learning, basic concepts, and alphabet. And so just head back over to your worksheet and type in early learning, basic concepts, and alphabet. That's the category path for this bestsellers list. We're going to be talking more about that in future videos. And then just Control V will drop the live link to that bestsellers list that we uncovered from this book. Again, we click through from below where it says Amazon bestsellers rank. It has these categories. These are live links. I'll open up the other one here just to show you. And again, record the category path and just copy paste that URL right into our worksheet, and do that for find at least 5 different bestseller categories from those 10 books. You're going to be surprised. It's going to take you to some nonfiction categories. It'll take you to some other categories that you maybe have never heard of, and you find some comparable titles there and other books inside this very same niche. And last but not least, reviews. What are some of the one-star reviewers from your comparable titles saying is missing from these books? And so again, we're not talking about the 5-star reviews. Most of these books are going to have plenty of 5-star reviews, but what we're interested in for the purpose of research for this particular book are the 1-star reviewers, the clunker reviewers, the people who had a bad hair day and just liked your book so much for whatever reason that they headed over and felt obliged to leave you a 1-star review. If you scroll down here where it says customer reviews on these book listing pages, you'll see 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star, and if you click through from that 1-star, it will take you to a page with all of the 1-star reviews, the worst reviews that people have left for this book for whatever reason. And some of them are like this, or like, I never received it, ordered 2 books, blah blah blah, which is more of like a customer service complaint. But some of them are like this, and this is really useful, and this is the information that you are going to want to know so that you make sure that the book that you write is going to solve this problem or issue or whatever they felt was missing from the book or that they didn't like from the book. In this case, this 1-star reviewer says this book was not good. There were too many pictures per page, not good for an iPad. This one says, can easily be replaced by taking your child around the house and spending time with him or her, whatever. Another one in the same vein as that first one that we looked at, a purchase for my grandson, not a good buy, especially in the Kindle. Possibly would be better if you could zoom in on each picture. So they're talking about the size of the pictures. Same one here. The Kindle edition only has 9 pages with tiny pictures. I'm very disappointed, and I'm sorry I wasted $6 on it. I'm interested in actually seeing what they're talking about now that they say that. Let me click on the look inside feature, and we can see per page it looks like 6 times 6 pictures per page, and they would be rather small if you're reading on a Kindle Fire device or on your iPhone. So this is really good feedback, and this is information that you're absolutely going to want to include in your worksheet. Maybe say something like make pictures full page, or 1 picture per page. That's great feedback, and that's exactly the stuff that you're going to want to know to avoid getting those 1-star reviews for the same reason for your book that you're going to be publishing to this niche. Okay, so go ahead, this is your homework here. Go ahead and fill out this children's book research worksheet. It'll only take you about a half hour tops, and then I'll meet you in module 3. That's right, we're ready to move forward and actually start writing and illustrating this book. I can't wait to show you. This is when the rubber hits the road. This is when it gets really exciting, and this is when the fun really starts. And so I will see you in the next video. Just make sure that you filled out this worksheet completely. See you there.